Welcome everyone to So Connected in our session today, exploring the intersection of STEM and innovation. Before we jump into the main event, I do quickly want to review some housekeeping items. You are encouraged to write any and all questions you have in the Q&A located at the bottom toolbar. We'll get to the Q&A at the end of the session. This session, along with all of today's So Connected sessions, will be recorded. Please keep an eye out in your email inbox for the recordings over the next week. If you have any questions following this session, please email info@labster.com. And without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Stephanie Couch, Executive Director of the Lemelson-MIT Program. She joined the program in 2016 and leads the program's research efforts, development of partnerships, and the national grant and award initiatives. Welcome, Dr. Couch.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. So let me get to that. Terrific. Okay. Well, so today I want to just give you an overview, start with an overview of what we'll cover. We're going to talk a little bit about the origins of a program, Biotech in Action, the students that have been served by the program so far, and the program elements that include Labster. We couldn't have done this program without Labster, but it also has a lot of other pieces to it. The outcomes that we've had and ways we've evolved to further improve the program or address other needs we've had. And then we'll take a deep dive into the Labsters that we used as part of the program and share with you some of the students' perspectives on their experiences with Labster that came from the research that we did the first summer that we operated the program. So hopefully we'll get through those slides pretty quickly and there will be questions and we can have a lively dialogue. So the program origins, this started in spring of 2020 when Biogen's community lab was in its 18th year of planning for a summer program that it has at in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and also in North Carolina. And these were programs for high school students that would normally be done in person. So they had about 400 students that were going to be served when we were all sent home overnight. And for them, canceling the summer program due to COVID was just not an option. We couldn't let these students down. I think all of us share this common passion for making sure students get great learning opportunities. So Biotech in Action was really born out of that. The Lemelson-MIT program had been working deeply in the Cambridge community, and so we knew some of the folks who were involved with the community lab program. And then we ourselves have been working to prepare the next generation of inventors and entrepreneurs for 17 years. And so we brought an experience of also working with students. And I personally have been involved with online learning initiatives for many years. So we decided we would offer a state-of-the-art virtual program as an option for these students who could no longer come into the lab. And we realized at that time that many of the students we were trying to reach, the students underrepresented in STEM, also may not have good Wi-Fi at home. They may not have a device to be able to use the Labsters.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Couch. Unfortunately, we cannot see your presentation.
Oh, okay. Let's see. View the slideshow, and that's not happening. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to try this again. Let's see. Wait. But that's not going to help. Stop share. Just 1 minute here. We're going to fix this. All right. Share screen. Here we go. Do the slideshow. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't
Okay.
worry. Thank
So
you.
we covered the topics we're going to talk about. We talked about the program's origins and the fact that we work to put all the pieces together, not just the program, but also the tech training, laptops, Wi-Fi that might be needed for the students. And so we quickly, in a 2-month period, really transitioned from in-person to a new program, newly designed program that would be all online. So just to go by the numbers here, we offered 5 different sessions. Each one was a week long. We had 80 students participating per session, so 400 students total. We had 8 instructors. We split them with college interns that Biogen had recruited and prepared, and also full-time staff from their labs. And then my colleague and I were researchers embedded within the program. We had a learning management system specialist who was helping with the tech side, and also support staff from our own program. And, you know, again, we hadn't done this before. And so these week-long sessions were really all-day sessions. And so we learned about Zoom fatigue as we went along, but these were all-day sessions. So we had a very diverse group of students, diverse backgrounds enrolled in the program, which was quite intentional, with the emphasis on, again, underrepresented students. We wanted to make sure that we designed in a way that would be fully engaging. And so we used a number of different enabling technologies and integrated those into Canvas. And then we also structured the time so that sometimes the students were together in a full group, sometimes they were in a small group with an instructor, and then within those small groups, they would break into even smaller groups to do small group work. And then at times we combine the groups as well. And at the end of every day, we included a time for self-reflection of what the students were learning and a lab notebook that they would complete. So this is sort of what our Canvas site looked like, with the daily program there on the right side, where the students could come into Canvas and they knew exactly what to do across the day in case they came in late. And they had the links immediately within the Canvas to go to. And again, this was all new for a lot of students. And so we helped them conceptualize how to navigate the system by having them think about it as if they were moving from class to class in a school. The mornings always began with our instructors having a lively debate around some fun topic that really wasn't academic at all, like what color of bananas that you prefer. And it sort of broke the ice for the students and got the students chatting, because remember, for online learning in the initial stages, it was common for high school students to join and then not say a word. And so we really wanted to get them interactive. All right, so that's the kind of thing you would come into. So they got an overview of Biogen, they got an overview of LMIT, and a deep dive into the theme for the week, which in our first summer was Parkinson's disease. And this is an example of a Parkinson's patient and a patient advocate who came in the second day to speak with the students, so that the students were really connecting to a person and not just talking about biotechnology or drug development for neurological diseases, but they were connecting it to a human. They also, on the right side, you see, had times when they, in their smaller groups, talked to professionals, which we called their water cooler mentors, who talked about college and career pathways. The students also heard from top level professionals from Biogen, like Dr. Peter Bergathon, the VP of Quantitative Medicine, our own faculty director, Professor Michael Sema from MIT, who is a prolific inventor. So they had those kinds of talks mostly in the mornings, and laced with all the others I just described. And then at the end of the week, they had a project in their small group teams to either do a research poster on a topic that they picked, or an idea for an invention that they had. And the only restriction we gave them is that it needed to be in a neurological disorder area that is an area that Biogen produces drug therapies. So one thing I think that is important to mention is everybody talks about young people needing mentors, and they do, they need role models. But we were intentional around the types of role models. And so the patient was inspirational. The VP of Quantitative Medicine and our own faculty director shared how work happens. We call those more the behavioral, what you have to do in this field. And then we also brought in our collegiate student prize winners, young inventors, at the collegiate level, and even teams of high school inventors who participated in some of our programs, so that the students could also hear from near peers and students from similar backgrounds who could share their pathways and make these goals accessible. And then the Canvas site itself had the links to the Labsters that were done in the small groups, with the instructors giving some pre-lessons and then some post wrap-up to check for understanding of the students. We also had a collaborative community that the students could engage with any of us for more questions. And then, as I mentioned, the end of day reflections that were done through Flipgrid, so they could be done with video. And so 94% of the students completed the summer program, and we were able to research the experiences of 171 of the 400 students. It's a pretty difficult process when you're dealing with minors and you have to get both parental consent and their consent. But we were able to get a sample that was representative of the program as a whole. And our pre and post surveys showed that there was a significant increase in students' positive attitudes toward biotechnology, in self-efficacy in relationship to biology learning, becoming aware of careers in the biotech fields, and developing a vision of their future careers. So all statistically significant. But the gains were greatest for students from underrepresented backgrounds, especially for their interest in the life sciences and their career awareness and related skills. So similar to what we see when we do studies of our own programs to help young people learn ways inventors find and solve problems in their communities. So this is the top line student outcomes from the pre-post surveys is that the most enjoyable moments that the students cited were meeting with the other people, their water cooler speakers that taught them about college and career pathways. And then you see the lab simulations from Labster right up there in the top. So we repeated this program again last summer with 400 more students. This time we allowed students to come in from around the globe. So we had an international audience that followed on from some work we'd done in the spring, where we actually used the live translation feature in Zoom to offer opportunities in Spanish and Portuguese. This time we made the sessions 2 weeks long and half days so that we all could be a little bit healthier, not on the Zoom for so long at one time. We had our own staff joining as instructors as well this next time around, and we had same positive outcomes. The outcomes were so positive these 2 summers, we thought, let's take a risk and let's see if we restructured the program and offered it across 10 Saturdays, would students give up a Saturday to do this program in the fall? And so we limited enrollment to 200 because we weren't even sure that we could get 200 students. And of course, the signups were way beyond 200. So we know we can expand a Saturday offering and still have students participating and getting some of the great outcomes we've experienced the other summers. So here are the Labsters we use: lab safety, the micropipette practice, CRISPR, cell culture basics, synthetic biology, protein synthesis lab, and molecular cloning. And again, you know, the lab simulations are right up there. And my colleague and I in the summer program, the first year, were following students throughout, including their use of the Labsters. We took field notes, we recorded everything. We did pre-post interviews with the 8 students as well, and we analyzed the transcripts of those daily video reflections of all 171 students. So we'll pick one out for you. This is MJ. He's an 11th grader. You can see he says, I first loved astronomy and then got interested in biology, and now it's biomedical engineering. The Labster was pretty cool, and I thought it was interesting doing my own stuff with Labster because I'm heavy into lab type of work and stuff. Now, a lot of our students hadn't ever worked with Labster. Many had not been in a lab. So we had the students span the gamut. Here are some additional quotes of what our students are saying. You see, you know, really engaging and fun to use and interact with. Surprised that I learned so much about how a lab works. A great resource since we can't do it in person. And I love this student who's so reflective. They said, doing each individual step was good for learning, making sure I understood. And they liked it that the Labster gives you little tips and tricks if you get stuck. The quizzes were good, and they made sure I retained all of the information. So I really like that. So that student's really thinking hard here about the experience they had. This one too, I rate my Labster experience as an 11 out of 10, something I would love to use in my science courses. It explains things very clearly. So the significance here is that, you know, there's a significant lack of diversity in STEM fields, especially biotechnology, and also among patent holders. And here we had a lot of students from underrepresented backgrounds who were thoroughly engaged, loving it. It's also significant because, you know, we look at where the job's going to be, what kind of skills do our graduates need? And this report from Burning Glass, which I encourage you to take a look at, talks about the drivers of change, especially in COVID era, being automation, digitalization, and hybridization. And there are really 3 categories of skills: technical ability, human or soft skills, and industry knowledge. And I think the ways we integrated the online technologies, students worked on their technical abilities, there's no doubt, along with their empathy for patients and trying to come up with solutions or additional research, got at the human skills as well as the teamwork they did on their posters. But they also got a lot of industry knowledge from the program. Also, the elements of the program as a whole then intersect really nicely in a way that aligns with the federal STEM education plan and these core pillars that are represented in the plan. So we think the program was good. We could not have done it without Labster, there's no way we could have done this program. And so we're very grateful that these existed, that we could draw upon them, and looking forward to seeing what else we might be able to do in other topical areas. So happy to answer questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions in the Q&A box quite yet, but I have a few of my own that we can use as a jumping off point. And then please, everyone, add your questions in the toolbar as you wish. So I thought a few things were very interesting in terms of the way that the program looks further than offering an experience, but rather offering ways to implement longevity into those experiences. So one being that you had water cooler speakers and you were very specific in choosing who would be the speakers. So my question to you would be, when those speakers are coming and speaking to the students, are they speaking about specific career paths? Are they sharing experiences? Could you elaborate a little bit on what they bring to the table to the program?
Yeah, sure. Again, we had a large variety of different types. So one of the speakers, who was someone who worked at Biogen, shared how he originally wanted to be in a social worker, and then, how he went through these different decisions in college to ultimately end up at Biogen. And so the students were saying to us that, they are feeling a lot of anxiety because they feel like they have to make the right career choice as they head into college, and they sort of view it as fixed. Once they go down one path, they can't really change. And so what they really appreciated from that water cooler speaker and others like him was that they learned that they don't have to have it all figured out as they head into college. So that was really relieving, and it aligns with research it really shows that students today aren't getting a lot of career guidance while they're in high school, and they're having to figure it out on their own. So we relieved a lot of anxiety there. Another water cooler speaker, for example, a woman who works in a research lab within MIT, gave the students a virtual tour of what her real lab looks like. And so they were able to compare the lab they were using in Labster with what her lab was looking like. Because she is a female in science, a lot of the young women reached out to her afterwards and had a lot more questions that they didn't feel comfortable, I guess, I don't know, asking in front of others, and figuring out how they, in fact, make it into college and make it into a science path. And so there's been a lot of follow-up action there. Another young inventor, you would be amazed, by the way, at when we do the intersection of biotechnology and inventing. So, for example, VP Bergathon showing how they get data and use data, but there was a device on the wrist that was capturing that data where they used to have to go into the brain. Now they can capture things with this device that you can't see with a human eye. And so then when our professor came and we're talking about someone creating those devices, how that works, et cetera, all these students who were putting in the chat, some of them had their own inventions already. And it was a real surprise. But there was another young man who was participating, and he went on to share a poster that was personal. It related because he had a family member who had that same disease as we'd been talking about all week. And in our second iteration, we've used Alzheimer's, but so a lot of students relate to that too. But that student then came back, got help from us, and went on to enter an invention convention, the first one we've had in Massachusetts, and he was elevated to go to the nationals at the Henry Ford Museum. And so you kind of see the students coming in, getting their bearing, and then taking this out in different ways. Students are getting different things. And what we saw in our research is that different parts of the program appealed strongly to different students, but collectively they got enough of what they loved to stick with a hard program. And we weren't sure that they would, because some of these students hadn't even had biology yet. And as we looked at the content of the Labsters, it's very difficult. It's the kind of thing you would learn in a second year lab science course in college. But that did not deter these students, because it was more like gameplay, and the fact that they could repeat it over and over and get the tips, and then had the instructors there to debrief the topics with them. So that wasn't a problem at all.
Amazing. So I have a couple of questions here in the Q&A box that relate to that. One question is, do you think that the students will go on to study STEM in college, specifically the ones that were most underrepresented students?
Yeah, several of them were interested already, and it deepened their interest. There is no doubt that there were students who decided that, yes, they really want to dig in here. But there were also some other students, like I'm remembering a student who was very interested in the arts out of New York, students who were interested in communications. And I think what we were able to show through the variety of water cooler speakers is that there are many different roles within a large company, and you can bring your strengths in these other areas and then your interest in the biotechnology area and have a very successful career. We touch on sustainability and the kinds of jobs that relate to making sure that Biogen's a sustainable company. When we bring our young team of high school inventors, like we had a team that came and talked that were from Oregon, and they talked about the different roles they had on the team, including the project manager and the financial manager of the team. And I think there was definitely an interest in being associated in some way.
Great. We have time for one more question, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So one here is there a specific way to measure the effectiveness of Labster in face-to-face infusing Labster?
Yeah, a specific way to measure. Well, so, we use pre-post surveys. You get some quantitative numbers with pre-post surveys. But then again, the Flipgrid reflections of 2 or 3 minutes where we asked a direct question about it. And then we transcribed students' videos to text, and we analyzed the text for the 171 students. We are not continuing the research study in our other iterations, but I still go back and look at those video reflections to see what students' experiences are. And then you can categorize those and get even more granular about what it is that students appreciate about the Labsters.
Okay, thank you.
And one last comment on that.
Sure. Again,
we do see some shifts from the first summer to the second summer and now, which is that if there's a silver lining to the online learning that students have had to do, it's that they have been far better at navigating the use of these different technologies. We require a tech check to go through the technologies with the students. And we see they have fewer and fewer questions because they are becoming more digitally savvy of how you use technology for learning. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I just want to extend a big thank you to you, Dr. Couch, for joining us today at So Connected and sharing your valuable thoughts and experiences with our audience. I also want to thank everyone for attending and taking the time out of your busy schedules to connect with us today. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, stay tuned for our next session.